Has anyone in here played around with Mission Editor at all? Or are we all pretty much square one?
Yeah. My buddy has. That's why I was hoping he could. But yeah, he's been making all our cool missions for us.
Square one, but a lot of interest in all of the map stuff.
Well, I will start from basically zero, and hopefully in like an hour and a half-ish, 2 hours, we'll have a decent grasp on what we're doing. Hey, Daster, if you can do that, you can fly around. It's already better than nothing. We can go ahead and get this party started. Hello, everyone. My name is Llama. You've likely seen me around the server talking a lot and pinging everyone frequently. Just a brief overview. I don't know everything about Mission Editor. There are tons of things I don't know. This is just going to be a quick overview type workshop where I will give out the information I've come across while I've been learning how to do it. And then if you guys have anything you figured out while you've been doing it, feel free to chime in at those times. That way we can all kind of learn and teach it from each other. We'll start from the basics. So we will start from ground zero. We will build blocks up. So we'll go over all the little different parts of Mission Editor, all the little tools we've got at our hands. We will not be getting into Lua coding. So this will be strictly using the Mission Editor and the tools available in the game. Ideally, by the end of this, we'll have like a mission kind of set up. You guys, if you have two screens or if you want to run through Mission Editor while I'm doing it on my side, perfectly fine. But yeah, getting into it. So whenever we click Mission Editor, it's going to bring us to this screen. We're either going to create a mission or open a mission. Most of you probably haven't created one yet, so we're just going to create a new mission. First screen pops up. This is our mission settings. This is where we set up what map we're running, some Marianas, all the maps, different maps you have. This is how you set up your coalition forces. This will affect your mission editor in the actual editor itself, depending on what vehicles are available to what side. So, custom presets. You can either go through, you can click on one, you can move it to blue. If you want it back on red, you can click red, it'll move it to red. If you want it back to neutral, just click the gray circle, moves it to neutral. They have presets, so they have Cold War setups. They also have more modern setups, World War II, and then early Cold War. But we're just going to run with a regular modern setup. Go ahead and spawn. Start a mission. Cool. Welcome to our mission editor. This is our Caucasus map. Should be very familiar to all of you. Right mouse moves the screen around, scroll wheel scrolls in and out. Looking on our left side on our toolbar here, top, it's going to create a new one. Open file, save file. These icons are pretty familiar. Moving down into the mission. This is going to be all of our mission settings. So the first one's going to be our briefings. You can add images to the briefings through here. This will be internal off of your PC. But in these little boxes, you're going to type out your briefing for the mission. Situation's going to post to the server briefing, so it'll be an overall. Everyone can see this. And then these individual one of these can only be seen by their respective coalition. Somebody joins in. The neutrals is going to be spectators. I highly recommend doing this outside of the editor. Do it in like Word or Notepad or something, just so you can have a decent amount of editing. Because there's nothing in DCS for editing. There's no spell check, there's no grammar check, nothing. Next, we've got our weather, time and weather. I haven't played around too much with this. This is basically just letting you change. So like the top is the date. Bottom down here is going to be just general climate information. So clouds and atmosphere, you can change your clouds. It'll give you a whole bunch of different options here. Base, cloud base just changes where the bottom, how far the bottom of the clouds are from the ground. It will go higher than this slider. So if I have a cloud base of 15,000 feet, I can just type it in. Or it's not going to. All right. Doesn't seem to like that. Ice halo, that's just around the sun. You'll notice the halo effect whenever you're flying high. So if you want to have it or not, it's up to you. Navigational wind settings. This is setting the wind speeds at various heights in the atmosphere. So if you want to be super cool and have varying wind speeds at different atmospheres, you can have that. Turbulence. It's just setting up turbulence settings. Pretty self-explanatory. Fog, auto and manual. Auto will just be based off of all the other climate information you put in, and it will determine the fog itself. Or you can do manual, and you can set up how thick you want it, how much visibility you want out of it. Dust storm is basically the same thing, but instead of fog, it's dust. And then down at the very bottom, you've got presets for all the spring, for all the different seasons. You can save your own presets. So if you edit all this stuff up here, and we go over to like sun and moon, you can change all that stuff under dynamic. Click that. Under dynamic, this will let you change the system on a global scale. So you can have a cyclonic or anticyclonic wind pattern. You'll notice the wind barbs will change. Wind barbs, if you don't know, are read in the direction of the flag. So line, and wherever direction these guys are facing down, so like the wind here is going down this way. As I read these guys, you'll see it's an anticyclonic. Cyclonic goes the other way. And then you can have a different amount of systems in it. Pressure deviation, how much difference pressure there is from one system to the other and variation. And if you just click generate, it just makes a whole bunch of new ones. And again, after you're done with all that, you can then save it as a preset, and it'll be available to you in the future if you ever want to use that. Moving on, this is our trigger zone. We will get heavily into triggers. When it comes to mission editing, this is probably the most daunting screen in the entire thing. Triggers are the heart and soul of a complex mission. So getting good with these are going to be the caveat as to how deep you get into mission editing itself. When using the tools just in Mission Editor, you're limited basically by your imagination. So critical thinking skills, knowing how to combine, whenever we get into triggers, we'll go into a little bit, but how to combine different triggers to bring up different actions or reactions to things you've done. It's just a thing you'll make over with time and experience. And the more you do it, the more you think about it, the more you'll get tricks and whatnot to come up with ways you want things to get done. Like I said, I can show you some of my tricks, but a lot of it's going to be you sitting down and taking the time to learn it yourself. Moving on, mission goals. These are just going to be setting up mission parameters for like when the mission's completed or whatnot. You're never really going to mess with this for our general purpose of just making a mission to fly around in and mess around in to do learning and whatnot. Next, battlefield commanders. So these are just available roles to people outside of pilots and jets. So if you want somebody that's a game master that can overlook everything for the red side and see everything at once, you'll have one red game master or 2 or 3 or so on and whatnot. And then you can lock them, adding down a password to them. So if I lock the game master for red, I can go down here and make a password for it so somebody with the password can join in and look at it. That's more of a multiplayer type thing. These are mission options. So these will override, these are what servers use to override your settings in DCS that you set up. So using these guys, you can restrict what some people can do. So like if I enforce these F10 menu options, I can set it to where people can only see the map. So they can't see friendlies, they can't see enemies, they can't see anything. Or I can turn on my aircraft where the only thing that person can see is their aircraft. Fog of War means you can only see vehicles and jets that have been spotted already. And then if you lose sight of them, it will disappear off the map. And then allies only obviously let you see only your allies, won't let you see any of the opposite coalition, and then obviously all lets you see everything. You can override labels, spotting dots, the flight model people use, immortal, unlimited weapons, unlimited fuel. So little things to play with if you ever plan on doing multiplayer type missions. You can restrict things through there. That won't really do anything for you if you are playing it, if you're just making a mission to play by yourself. And then the 3 boxes let you adjust your coalitions after you've made the mission. So if you decided you didn't want Germany on the blue, you can shove them over to red or something. And then undo obviously will change anything you've done. Fly mission will give you a pop-up asking if you want to save. I highly recommend you save. And then it'll bring you to this screen if you hit yes or no, and then you can hit start and you'll just plop down into the mission and start practicing it. So if you want to test something or whatnot, you can do it that way. Highly recommend. You'll be using that guy a lot if you're making complex missions, so you can test it as you're making it, so you're not doing your whole time making a mission and then having to test everything at once. Moving on, this is where all the fun happens. These are all of our unit icons. So top one's the jet. Obviously, this lets you place down jets. So if we wanted to put down, just because I'm biased, we'll throw down an F-16. Boop. So I just selected the F-16 over here. I click on the map anywhere I want it. It'll drop it there. So when we do that, it will...
Question on that. When you place it on there, it automatically assumes it's going to be in flight, right? Over the water?
Yes.
When it starts? Or
yep.
If it's on land, it'll be on a... Okay, got it. Thank you.
No, so anytime you put down a jet, it will automatically, jet or helicopter, it will automatically put it in the sky, no matter where you put it. So I could put another one over here, and it's still going to be at 6,500 feet at 430 knots. So just real quickly going over this screen, get rid of that guy. So the information we've got available to us, group name is going to be if you have like multiple members of the flight. So I'll just say this is Viper flight. If you've got our condition, this is basically how much health the jet has. You can change that if you want to. Country tells you what country it aligns to. Task. This is mainly going to affect you if you have multiple aircraft available to you in a mission and you have different tasking for them. It will tell you whenever you spawn into the jets what task it's set up for. For the purposes of AI jets, this will affect what their behaviors are whenever they're flying. But this is basically our jet, so we're just going to mess with our jet for now. Unit numbers. This is where we set up flight members if we want to have more than one members of our flight. So left number is which one you're editing. Right number is the total in the group. So if I just keep increasing the group size, we'll see it just keeps adding on jets. And I can get rid of them that way. And you'll notice down here under pilot, this is the name of the respective jet. So first one's Ariel because I forgot to change it. And then as I add more, it's going to shoot over to 2. We'll see 2 is now Viper Flight 1. So it's just going to take the group name and then affix a number to it. If you plan on getting into this deeply to do complex missions, I know I keep saying that, it is highly, highly imperative you get used to changing these names to match the group you're in. because otherwise you're going to have a whole bunch of aerials and grounds and ships and whatnot. You're not going to know what's what. So naming scheme is a super important thing you need to remember whenever you're doing missions like this. So you know what's what. So whenever we get into triggers, you can make triggers way more easy to you. Moving on, we're just going to have one guy in our flight, so we're just going to cut it back down to one. We want to tell the jet that this is going to be a player-controlled jet. So if we're going to select player, if you are doing a multiplayer mission, you are going to use client instead.
So real quick, bro, single player will be player and multiplayer will be client.
Yes.
Okay.
And then down here is just little basic information on the jet. So you can in fact change the tail number if you want to. You can default if the radio's on or not. Call sign. You can set what call sign you want it to be. And then the numbers for it. These guys down here, if you are wanting to use this as a dynamic spawn, so if we have it on, say, client, and we want this jet to be the template that people spawn in with whenever they spawn into our multiplayer mission, we're going to set it as a dynamic spawn template with this check mark. And we'll come down here to a password. We will set a password. The password will not lock the dynamic spawns. It will lock this dynamic spawn template. So the jet itself becomes a template that we will then tell the air bases. And we'll get into that in just a little bit.
Well, one more quick question. Can you make your own call signs, or do you have to use the ones in the list?
You have to use the ones in the list. The game will not let you use any outside of this list.
Okay.
But for the purposes of your mission, you can use whatever you want to. This is only going to affect what they appear as on the map.
Right. Okay.
And then if you have like an AI controlled AWACS or something, or anything that's AI related that tries to communicate with the jet, they'll use the call sign that you give it in the mission editor.
Cool. Right on.
So password will just lock this specific jet down. It will not lock down the dynamic spawns for the jet. So if I go to Sakumi and I set up a dynamic spawn for this guy, if I go down to F16, I'll see my dynamic spawn is here. So now anytime I spawn into an F16 at Sakumi, my jet will spawn based off of how this jet is set up. But people won't be able to spawn into this specific jet. Part of the caveat to that is you will need to hide this from people. So that's what this hide hidden on planner, MFD, and map. So if I hide it from the map, you can't see it on the map. Hiding it on the planner prevents people whenever they spawn into the server. That server briefing, whenever you scroll down, it will have a list of all of the units that are in play on the map. Hiding it from the planner will prevent people from seeing it in that list. And then hidden on MFD will hide it from the actual spawn menu itself.
So just a quick question. In order to have the template, you have to keep that actual plane on the map?
Yes, you have to have these active somewhere. So normally the
Mhm.
best way to do that is to just take them and move them over to like a far corner of the map just to have them out of the way.
Mhm.
And then make sure you have them hidden and password locked.
Okay.
That way, because like you can't see it's there now, but we know it's available to us because we're using it.
So what's the advantage? I don't mean to keep asking questions, but what's the advantage or disadvantage of that?
Of dynamic spawns or hiding it?
Yeah, hiding it.
Just to help people clean up the spawn menu so people aren't seeing a whole bunch of templates on their spawn menu and trying to spawn into them by accident.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Because the way these are set up is if you forget to password lock it or you forget to hide it, and somebody spawns in it, they're going to spawn in that jet. So if somebody spawns into this, they're going to spawn into this jet way the fuck over here at 60.
Wondering where the hell they are, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And again, that's just a multiplayer thing. If you're doing solo missions, you're not going to be messing with dynamic spawns and all that.
Right on.
Cool. Moving down to our lovely little options menu down here. This is where we'll change pretty much the behavior and everything about the aircraft that we need to. Most important is this first page. This sets up the spawn conditions and the waypoints in the jet. So if I have this guy sitting here, but I want him to spawn on the ground at an airbase, I'm going to make sure he's near that airbase. So we're just going to put him here next to Sanaki. I'm going to go in here under type. This sets the what type of waypoint we're looking at. So like what this waypoint does. So we're at 0 of 1. We don't have any waypoints set up. So this is the default spawn setting of the jet. I'm going to change this. I have a bunch of different options. But we want to take off from the ramp because we want our jet on the ground ready to go. So taking it off and take off from ramp, it will kick it to whatever the closest airbase is, and it will then select a parking spot on that airbase for you. And if you don't want to, if this is too far away from the runway for you and you'd rather spawn in like one of these down here, you can just go over to your parking number here and you can change your number and it'll kick it down to that parking spot. So we've got the jet on the ground. We've got it at an airbase. Real quick, just saying the takeoff from parking hot will have you in the same place. Just your jet will be on and running. It'll be a hot start. Takeoff from ramp will be cold. And then takeoff from one way will just be in the center of the runway. If you get super into this and you start doing like road bases, you'll have to do takeoff from ground. And then you can set it on like a roadway if you want to. But anytime you use runway, it will always kick it to the nearest airbase. So if I go back to ramp, it's going to kick it back to the nearest airbase. Cool. So we've got our jet on the ground. We've got it at an airbase. Let's give us some waypoints so we know where we're looking. So I'm just going to click add down here. Whenever you spawn the jet, add will by default be selected. So be careful if you start clicking on the map, you'll start adding in waypoints. So just make sure you click back to edit before you start moving the jet so you don't actually accidentally add any waypoints to it. But we're going to go ahead and add some waypoints. So as I said, we're just going to click anywhere on the map. It's going to drop that waypoint there. So we're just going to be, let's delete that. We'll put this a little closer. We're just going to put a little one there. Just make a little box around Sanaki. Cool. So now we've got 4 waypoints in the jet. So if you were to spawn into this jet right now, we would have these 4 waypoints already loaded in. And you'd be able to cycle through them and see them in the jet. But we don't like flying at 6,500 feet. We want to fly at like, let's be brave, we'll fly at like 60,000. So for our respective waypoint, make sure we go back to edit. We're going to choose the waypoint we want to change. So waypoint 1, we're just going to change our altitude. Boom. It's not going to let you get above 5,000. We're going to up our Mach a little bit. So we're going to change our speed. 450. Should let us. Put it 60, so I want to. You will notice a lot of times this information here will change each other based off the information you give it, based off the performance capability of the jet. For the purposes of flying a player jet, you don't really need to worry about the speed or the Mach number. These are primarily going to be for the AI. So if I put down, if I change the jet to an AI jet, he's going to fly the waypoints I select, or I give him, at the altitude and speed I've told him to fly them at. But we're not too worried about the speed, just the altitude. being goofy, putting down a crazy number nobody's actually going to be flying at. Cool. Cool. So that's all 4 waypoints. We'll have to notice the waypoint number, total number is going to be bigger than the amount you have available to you. And that's just because you have that 0 initial starting information for the jet. It still counts as one of the waypoints, so to speak. So don't let that confuse you. Every time you click this, it won't do anything for you. So, being said, we'll notice this is our default spawn time. So this is going to be whatever you set as the initial time as the mission itself. And you can see as we cycle through our steer points, it's going to give you a new ETA for in world when you'll reach that steer point. So it looks like we'll reach steer point 1 in 1 minute, 17 seconds with the information you have set here. So if you want to plan a route, the speed will be a little bit helpful for you. So if we kick over to steer point 2, we'll get to steer point 2 at 8 a.m., 2 minutes and 49 seconds. 3, we get there at 5 minutes, 52 seconds. And then 4, we get there 7 minutes, 23 seconds. And then if I change our speed, we'll see that count goes down. So if you want to plan a route, you can use that to help you get a good idea on timings and whatnot. And then obviously delete, we'll just delete whatever waypoint you have selected up here. Now, advanced waypoint actions. This is where it gets a little bit in depth. For the most part, you're going to be using this for AI jets, set up how they behave.
One question for the player waypoints. Do they actually save in your plane as steer points, or depends on the jet?
They do, yes.
In the Apache, there will be Apache waypoints, and
so whatever your base navigation system is for the jet, it will save to that.
Okay. Cool.
So when we're looking at the waypoints, every waypoint we can select an action to happen under this waypoint actions. Normally you're going to do this with AI jets to tell them. So if like we want a jet to fly here to waypoint 3 and do something, we'll make sure we have waypoint 3 selected. We're going to add a waypoint action. And we get this lovely list of items. So under perform task, you have these options to do. So if you wanted them to strafe something, we'd select strafing. You can select what weapon they're going to use, how much they're going to use it, how many times they're going to attack, so on and so forth. Auto, it will just let the computer or the AI decide what weapon they're going to use. You've got orbit, so you can just sit there and fly in a circle. Or in a racetrack, circled or anchored. You have those options to you. The speed and altitude they'll be doing it at. Barrier combat air patrol is going to be basically just the orbit function, but it adds on the cap functionality on top of it. Refueling, this is going to be a setting for the refueling jets. So the KC-135 and whatnot. Follow, if they want them to get here and then follow another group, you can specify what group they're going to follow. You need to have other groups on the map, obviously, for that to happen. And then how far from them, how high, and whatnot. And then aerobatics, this will let you make AI do air show stuff. I haven't played with this myself, but you're welcome to if you want to. En route task, this one's going to be very important whenever you start doing complex stuff and you need people to react to things, or you want a capped flight you're putting down to do a specific thing. So search then engage, it will tell them to go whenever they get to steer point 3, or on their way to steer point 3, they're going to do this function. They're going to search for things and engage them. They're going to engage and search for whatever you tell it to in this list. And you can set a distance for them to do it. Search and engage in the zone. It will pop up a zone right here on the map. You can move that zone around. You can change its size. However you want it to. You'll have to do the size here. You can't, unfortunately, drag the circle to make it larger. And then, like before, you can set it to do specific things in that zone. Or you can have it do a specific group or a specific unit. So you'll need the group name, the specific unit in the name, or just a general cap function. You'll notice, since our task is set to cap, we already have the cap function down here. So let's go ahead and delete this guy and go back to our default settings. So whenever you set up this task up here, it will auto load in the default waypoint actions as the base settings for the jet. So for waypoint 0, any changes you make here are the base settings for the jet. So as a player, these won't really affect us too much. This EPLRS will. That enables people to use data link and whatnot. If we were to change this to like a ground attack, we'll notice that all of the waypoint actions change by default to match this task. You can still add on more. So just clicking add lets you add in more tasks that you want to add. Like I said, this is really going to be for AI aircraft, for them to behave the way you want them to. So if we look back to our, I kind of got sidetracked there. Looking back to our waypoint actions available to us, you will notice that some of these won't be available depending on what you're doing. So if we change to a ground attack, our perform task is going to be different. There's going to be a different list of things available to us. I don't want to sit here and go through every single change available because it would take us hours. So just know what your task is will change what waypoint actions are available to you. Playing with the waypoint actions is going to be pure, just taking in the time yourself to go in and play around with it. Moving on. This is the loadout for the jet. The next tab over, so this orange tab. This will change based off the jet you have selected here. So if you plan on having an AI flight of like 4 jets, it's highly recommended make the first jet do everything to this one jet that you want. So if we wanted this guy to have a bunch of AMRAMs, we're going to give him AMRAMs. Then we will build out the flight, and it will copy this jet for each member of the flight. That way you're not having to go through and make loadouts and set liveries for every single jet of the flight. And then over here, you can do fuel, how much it weighs. As you change, you can see this information adjusting to match. You can set how much chaff and flare it has, how much gun ammo it has, what ammo it's using, and so on and so forth. Obviously, this is going to be different for every jet because every jet carries different things. Moving on, these are our triggered actions. These will get important when we start talking about triggers. Basically, this is a sub-list of actions you can have set up for reaction things to happen. So if we're in, say we're in AI flight, and we want to set a triggered action that he will, let's say, just carpet bomb something. So here's our carpet bomb little tick right here. Wherever we put this over, he's going to carpet bomb it. So we're just going to put it right there. let him choose his weapon, and so on and so forth. So now, when we go into our triggered actions, into our triggers, we can set up a new trigger, and we can push a triggered action and select this unit, and this will be listed under there, and we can tell this jet to do something when a trigger occurs. It will make a little bit more sense when I get into triggers, but I want to get this list figured out first before we hop into there. Summary, this is just summary information from your route. It gives you a breakdown of start, total time spent flying, how long it is, and so on and so forth. I believe this is the failures menu. Not all jets have this, but if you want to, you can add in random failures to occur. You'll need to activate failures in the mission options. Yeah, the mission options. You can set up random failures there. And then if you want something to happen at a specific time, like an engine to flame out or something, you can set that manually there. Further on, radio settings. This lets you change the radio settings for all the jets, or for the jet itself. Again, highly recommend you get the single member of the flight figured out first, so you don't then have to go through and do this for every single jet in the flight. You'll need to know the relative jet you're changing, because you'll notice, like, there's a UHF and a VHF radio on the Viper, so you can't come down to the VHF and put in UHF frequencies because it won't let you. I believe this is, additional properties. So this is just random miscellaneous options. This entire row of options right here is jet specific. Some jets have all of these, some don't, some have less, some have more. But for the F-16, for instance, lets you change like how the LAU 3 or the gun rate. You can have what helmet system is going to be mounted to them whenever they spawn. And for data link specific things, you can set in a specific jet's information. And then coming over to data link, this gets a little confusing. You will need to understand the data link information for the jet you are using. This is only going to work, I believe, for the Viper, the Hornet, and I believe the Jeff. I could be wrong. But flight members will automatically populate inside the top. So if I add on another one, he's going to populate in there as the next STN. The Viper can have 4 donors. So if anytime you put down an AWACS, it will automatically set it up as a donor. Or you can just manually select from the group and units here and add them. Adding a group will add all members of that group to there. It won't add the group itself. So if I have 5 members in a group and I add it to the TNDL donors list, specifically for the Viper, I will only get 4 of them because it can only have 4 donors. And then DTC, this is the data transfer cartridge. This only works for the Hornet and the Viper right now. It is still a work in progress on ED side. But if you have a DTC saved to your PC, you can select it here and add it, have it loaded into the jet. Any questions so far about any of this stuff? I know I kind of sped through it.
Well, I think for me, in my point, in a few months, we might be good to go further with this. It's still, I'm still working on the very basic basis. So, but
yeah, I want to get everyone a good base on what this menu does. But I can speed up a little bit. So you got to sit down.
It's all good information. It's all good.
Yeah, you're good. But moving on, we've got our our jet down. Let's go ahead and give us something else to shoot at. So we're just going to pop down another jet up here. We don't want to shoot down a friendly, so we're going to go to our country. We're going to change it to the opposite coalition country. So your coalition list, whenever we first started, this is where that comes into play. So we're just going to make it a Russian jet. And you will notice this list will change sometimes depending on what task you have selected and what country you have selected. So
why the different colors on the vehicle types? No, the vehicle types. Some were highlighted more in yellow.
And some yellow vehicles are ones you have downloaded and installed.
Okay.
Yeah, gray or white is just the ones available in the game. Yellow is ones you have available to you. There is no way to know which one is player controlled and which one is not. You just have to kind of figure out that list on your own, unfortunately. So, like this guy in MiG. I'm just going to change this to MiG 29. Change our pilot to MiG 29. You can change his difficulty level here. Rookie, trained, veteran, ace, or you can do a random and it'll just choose one of these whenever the jet spawns in. And then all this information stays the same. And we want to give him, let's just put him at 20,000 feet. Let's get him flying 550, just under Mach 1. So whenever we spawn in and we start the mission, this guy will be flying at 20,000 feet at 550 knots. By default, they will fly straight due north, unless you give them a waypoint. So we're just going to give them a waypoint all the way down here. Cool. So whenever he spawns in, he's going to spawn in at 20,000 feet, 550 knots, and he's going to start flying to waypoint 1, which copies over the information we put into the base waypoint. We'll notice, because we have cap selected as our task, it gives up the cap list of options. So cap right here will tell him he is doing combat air patrol, so he will engage targets. Or we can go a step further, and under set option, we can go in here and we can set his behaviors from all these different options. Like ROE sets his rule of engagement, so basically what he's allowed to do. Reaction to threat, what the AI will decide to do when he gets met with a threat. Whether or not he uses his radar. If he decides to use his chaff and flare. Formation flying, if you have multiple in the flight, you can set up their formation. If they'll RTB on Winchester or Bingo. Silence just basically turns off all of their communications. It won't really do much for red AI because you're not on the red side, but if you're on a blue side, it helps to turn off or to silence AI flights if you don't want to listen to them constantly coming over radio. ECM if they're using a jamming pod. You can restrict certain behaviors, so restrict their air-to-air. Value on off. Restrict jettison, if they'll jettison weapons, they'll be able to go into afterburner, prevent them from doing air-to-ground attack. You can set up how far away they launch. No waypoint pass, same thing as silence. It just prevents people from saying they're passing a certain waypoint number. Radio usage, same thing as silence, just more specific what to silence. More jettison. Override if he will attack or if he will avoid incoming attacks or not. And then landing options, how he lands and all that. So it lets you get in pretty deep. You can add in as many of these as you want. There's no limit. Just know some of them will interfere with each other and you won't get correct behavior sometimes. So let's let him just have weapons free. Anything he sees, he wants to kill. And that should be about good for him. He should attack anyone he sees right on sight. We can go ahead and move to the next tab, set up his armaments and whatnot. And then we have our triggered actions again. So let's give him a triggered action real quick. We're just going to say his reaction to threat, evasive vertical maneuver. So just going to throw in a random reaction. He will not do this until we tell the mission to trigger that action. This is just a little side menu to set in anything we want to change in these behaviors during the mission. This allows you to make things a little more dynamic. Any questions so far?
Yes, about the advanced waypoint options, do they apply to all the waypoints? Do they apply, can you override them on the next waypoint, or how does it work? Whatever you
Yeah,
your
so
waypoint.
waypoint 0 by default will be what the jet does through all of its behaviors for the rest of the mission.
Okay.
So if we wanted to change its ROE, we can then go to waypoint 1, add in a new ROE,
Or
and
change any of the initial. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so the waypoint actions will be in reference to the waypoint itself that you have selected.
So it's not starting from waypoint 2, it will behave like what you said there. It's just on the waypoint 2.
Also, this is always going to be higher than the amount you have available because there's already a default 0 waypoint, which is the standard like base level jet functions. So if we set up the ROE here as a weapons free, and then on our waypoint 1 we change it to weapon hold, when he swaps and moves to waypoint 1, by default he's going to automatically go to weapon hold because he's already going to waypoint 1.
Okay, and then waypoint, if you add a waypoint, it will.
So if we add another waypoint,
which ROE will be here? If you don't specify,
it'll be the last one we did, so it'll be the weapon hold.
So it's from now on, not only for that waypoint.
Yeah, so whenever you set up these options, it will persist through the rest of the waypoints until you change it again.
Okay, got it.
But you can only do this in the mission editor, which is why we have these triggered actions that let you change it in the mission while the mission is happening. So let's delete that guy. Cool. And then the rotor wings, naval ships, tanks, these will all do the same thing. So the mission, these will all look exactly the same. Obviously, the settings are going to be a little bit different for each one because everything does different things. Important for the ground units, if you want to use combined arms, you need to make sure player can drive is checkmarked. Cool. So templates here are going to be for by default, they're going to be for SAM batteries. So if we go to Russia and we click our little drop down, we're going to have all these different SAM available to us. So anywhere I click, after clicking template, anywhere I click, it's going to drop whatever SAM battery I selected. So we'll see we have an SA-10 site now on the map. To change it, you have to delete this one and put up a new one. Every time you click the map with this open, it will spawn a new one. So make sure you don't start spamming SAM units by accident. And then I won't go into specific SAM behaviors unless somebody wants me to later. But just know that I put down.
What were you doing to delete your spammed? Was that like a right click or something?
No, it's just the delete key on the keyboard.
Oh, you highlight it and then delete it with the delete key.
Yeah, so I just for the SAM sites, you're clicking on the one that has the 1 number next to it. That's like
Okay.
the primary vehicle for that SAM site, and then you just click the delete key to delete the whole thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Otherwise, if you just click individual parts of it, it'll just delete the individual parts.
Okay, cool.
And then you can make your own templates. It's not specific to SAM batteries. By default, that's just what's in the game are SAM batteries. Oh, here I am deleting templates by accident. Yeah, little icon right here deletes the current selected template. Down here, you can make a new template. So by doing that, you just drop down some stuff. Yep, that's if I stop deleting. Stop making waypoints. Just going to add a bunch of different little. So same, like how your delete key works. Control C, Control V works, so I can paste units all over the place if I want to.
And the yellow is obviously the direction they're looking when you spawn them.
So it's unique to the item you're spawning. So this is a threat. This is their threat ring.
Mm.
So if I put down like a tank, you'll notice the threat ring. So go to armor, just put down a BTR. The threat ring is going to be smaller.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's just like the range of that specific target.
Yeah.
But for these, yeah, like how these are set up, these will tell you what direction they're looking.
And they're all the same by default. You can't stretch those out or shorten them or anything.
Not in such a way where you can like manipulate the circle. You can, under your waypoint actions, you can change their. Where's it at? Boop, boop, doo. Interception range here. You can change as a percentage of their total range. You can shorten it or whatnot, but you can't physically change the cone itself.
Okay.
But if I wanted to like, if you do something fancy and you like look online and you build a true to life template for like a armor column or something, you can go over here to multi-selection, draw a box around it. With that, we can go to create modified templates. Oh, I lied to you. Sorry. Let me change all of that. Delete that. Delete that. It's been a hot minute since I made a template. Cool. So we're going to use the unit category here. So we're just going to make a random template so it starts naming them differently. We're just going to go ahead and add in a bunch of them. You can go in, manually change what each item is. It will just copy whatever the first one you have selected is. So we can just change all these to individual things. And then whenever we go into the templates, our selected group is the random template. You can set the name that we want for the template, and then you can save it. So in the future, if you have like a convoy or like a checkpoint or like a FARP or a base that you want to use in future missions, you'll make the template using the units. Functionality, stop spawning SAM units, Mason. Make the template, save the template, and then you can use it in future missions.
Can you scroll? I was going to say if you could say that.
You're good.
There seemed, yeah. So the ring is anywhere in that ring. If you were flying in there, you'd be in their threat. So what was the yellow cone? Was that the
yellow
direction
cones are radar ranges. So if I throw down, let's throw down a SAM template. So if I throw it on the SA-10, the red ring is engagement, yellow ring is radar.
So what was the cone part?
That's just that's just its cone of view.
That's where it's looking, you mean?
Yeah,
Like
so
where the missile's actually
different
facing
vehicles
at the
have
time?
different ways they can see things. That
Okay.
what we had specifically there is a very small cone radar that can only look in one direction.
Okay.
So it's stuck to that cone setup because
And it doesn't rotate.
It can't turn. Yeah, it can't rotate. It can't turn or whatnot.
Okay.
But can you manipulate that when you place it on the map so you can have multiple fire zones, primary fire zones for those?
Yeah, like
For the
full
purposes
coverage.
of SAMs, you won't really. But the SAMs units themselves aren't going to have that kind of restriction unless you're using like the. Let me throw down the Patriot system real quick. If I have one. So notice the Patriot site has things like that. If I go in and I look at the radar itself, this little circle right here tells you what direction it's facing. So if I move that circle around, it changes its heading.
Yeah, like interlocking fields of fire type of thing,
Right.
where you can overlap and whatever the edges. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, for the most part, these things are very specific. Typically, you're only going to run into this on radars. Anything that's like a ground unit is going to have a 360 circle on it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
For the most part.
Okay, gotcha.
And then if you want to, you can set these down as red as well. So if you go down to Combined Joint Task Forces, it'll change it.
Okay.
Just if you want to fight against blue craft, you can change it use the Combined Joint Task Forces option down here, and it'll change it. Let you use that opposite coalition's craft as the other side. Cool. So that's how vehicles work for the most part. That's how a template works. Static objects. So you'll notice whenever you're playing on the map, you have all the buildings and whatnot that are lying around. So let's change our view. Where's our view? There it is. Let's go to satellite. So we'll change down here on the bottom is your view modes, map, satellite. And then height map. I guess it's like a topography map. You can right click on all these buildings and it will change the building into a physical object. So we can assign this. So this is now, it will put on a trigger zone around this object to let you use it as an object, as like a unit or whatnot in the thing. So we can just call this type random building. There's two different types of trigger zones you can have. I will get into them in just a second, but you can change the zone itself. If you want to edit it, if it's not big enough or it's too small, you can quad viewpoint. You can change it with the points. Color will change the color of the zone, obviously. And then you can link it to specific flights. You won't really mess with that too much. And so now if you have something happen where you need to bomb a building, you use the static object feature, assign it as, get the template zone up, and then you can use it as a trigger zone. We'll just leave that there for now. At this point, if you have been playing Mission Editor, we've been in here for a hot minute, you should have been saving like 30 or 40 times by now. There is no redo. There's no undo in Mission Editor. Anything you do is final. If your PC crashes, you lose all of the progress you had up until that point, if you didn't save.
Respectfully, there is an auto backup in Mission Editor.
Oh, is there?
Yes, there is.
Ah, sweet. How do you get to that?
I don't have DCS up, so it'll take me a minute, but I'll tell you. But I think it's in settings, and then you just go into the file menu of Mission Editor.
Oh,
File open backup. You gotta tell it to back up. That's the problem.
Yeah, I haven't saved anything yet, so there won't be anything there. Cool. I did not know about that. Thank you.
Right on.
So will that persist through, like if DCS crashes, will that persist? Or
Yes,
is that just for your specific?
it will persist even if you save the mission and then close out a DCS. It'll be there days. There'll be backups that can last for days to revert to if you have to.
Interesting. So is that saved to the MIS file itself, or is that any changes you've made, regardless of what MIS you're in?
Regardless of what mission you're in, it'll keep backups of them.
Cool. That's really good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's still though, save.
Yeah.
All right. What did I... Well, saving missions. We're moving on to initial nav points for A10C unit. I haven't actually messed with this. That might be something somebody with an A10 needs to look into and see what that does. That's a very specific setting to have. Bullseyes, these little circles here, the red, blue, and gray, these are the bullseyes for their respective coalition. The bullseye option here just lets you see where they're at. If you want to move them, you can just click on them and drag them around, put it wherever you want it. And that is a mission set thing. So wherever you put it, it's going to save it to the mission, and that every aircraft on that coalition will have the same exact bullseye. Cool. Creating trigger zones. So what we did with this building, you can do manually. So if I open up the trigger zone menu and just click on the map, it will drop a trigger zone. Let's just make this we'll just call this fly through zone message. We can have its type, so we can either have a circular point or a quad point. These are normally circular ones are going to be kind of rough to work with because again, it's a circle, so its size is very hard to work with. I prefer quad points for most zones because you can make this thing as weirdly shaped as you want it to be just by manipulating the squares. Again, you can change the color. I find color coordinating these zones to what they do will help you a lot when you're looking at the mission as an overhead. I will open up one of my missions I've made later, and we'll see how these trigger zones start stacking on top of each other. It gets a little difficult to see. So like if you're setting a zone for like a completion of something, I find green works best for me. If I'm putting up a zone for it activating something, I'll make it like a red. That's just up to you, what you want to do there. To select a trigger zone, you need to be in the trigger zone menu. It'll pop up on the right. Whenever you click on the very center of it, make sure you're clicking on the center of it if you are stacking them. So if I move this over here and I stack them, you'll just keep clicking on them to cycle between them. Let's put this right here. So like right as soon as this guy takes off, he'll enter the trigger zone. I don't have my system set up, so I won't be able to fly immediately. Cool. So we've got a trigger zone set up. We'll just call it the fly through zone message. If we wanted to link it to units, we can. Trigger zone list. This is going to show us all of the trigger zones we have set up on the map. You can choose whether or not they're hidden on the map. Like this. Whenever you launch the mission, trigger zones are hidden by default. So anybody playing the mission cannot see them. This only hides them on your mission editor map. So if you have, like I said, if you have a bunch of them stacking on top of each other and you need to get some out of the way, you'll just hide them down here. And then we've got our unit list. This is obviously a list of all of the units on the map. and it'll tell you like breakdown of how many each one you have. You can specify if you want to look at the reds or the blues, whatnot, so on. You can look at specific country ones. And then this little button right here is basically your delete key. If you don't want to use your keyboard, you can use that. And now we've come to our map options. Just let you affect what can be seen, what can't be seen. Won't ever really play with that guy too much. Draw feature lets you draw on the map. So if I wanted to have a line, I can just make a box using the lines. And you can change it. This you can set visible to the mission itself. So if you wanted to like box off a region for everyone to look at, you'll use the draw feature. And under binding layer, you'll set it to the coalition you want to see it. To edit them, you'll have to be under that tool. Then you can just delete, or if you use line, click on a text box that you put down a little thing to put messages in. Icon lets you put down the icons that are in the game already, so like what you see on top of the units. Ruler is just the same ruler that's in Beyond. Whenever you're playing multiplayer, it's the same thing. Multi-selection is very helpful if you want to move a bunch of things at once and not have to do them individually. You can select by drawing a box. It'll select everything in that you highlight, including trigger zones. So everything that's inside that select, when you do it, it will select, and then moving them around. So we'll click move. It'll move that whole thing around. If you put him back on that. Cool. This is where your mission starts taking off. Triggers are the lifeblood of a complex mission. Anything you want to happen has to be done through a trigger. So, coming into our trigger menu, we will create a new trigger. Middle box is your individual triggers. Center box is the conditions that trigger needs to meet before the action occurs in the third box. So we have, under triggers, you have different ways it can work. Repetitive action means it will be doing it constantly until it happens. Sorry, it'll be doing it constantly, even past if it happens. Switched conditions, it will only work if the conditions inside change. Once, it will just do it once and it won't do it again. And then mission start, it will initiate upon the mission itself starting. You can change the name. This is where naming conventions really come into help. So we'll just call this mission start message. Bucket type. We'll just color coordinate this however you want to color coordinate. It makes looking through them a lot easier. So we can change our conditions. We get a list of conditions available. This is a very long list. I will not go through all of these. You are free to look through them. Each one has a specific tasking that each one does. We're just going to use absolute time more. We're just going to make it 1 second. So absolute time, this is in seconds. So this is 8 a.m. in seconds. So at mission start, we're going to move on to actions. We're going to change our action. For this, we're just going to make it put out a message. Again, massive list of options that you can have happen. We're just going to have a message. So we're just going to message to everyone on the server. We're just going to type in hello world. And then down here, we can change how long it's available, how long after this trigger starts for it to delay the message. So if we put a 10-second delay on here, after this trigger happens, it'll wait 10 seconds, it'll pop up the message, or it'll do whatever the action itself does. So in this setup, the mission will start. The absolute time will immediately click over 1 second higher than 8 o'clock. It will then send out this hello world message to everybody on the server. That's the general idea behind triggers. We wanted to set up this fly through zone message. To do something, we're going to select a new trigger. Just make it a one-time event. I'm going to make a fly through zone message, just to call it that. I'm going to make a new condition. So now we're going to say if there is part of a coalition in zone, and then we specify what coalition is inside the zone and what zone we're talking about. And then you can even say what kind of unit it is. And we make a new action. We can go ahead and set up a new message. We'll say blue is joining the fight. Now, with that, we can go over and we can set an AI task push. And we can see these are those triggered actions we were talking about on the units. So if we wanted to change this guy's reaction to threat, or whatever we said is as triggered option, for somebody to fly through this trigger zone, we can set him to change his threat reaction to evasive vertical maneuver. So whenever we take off and fly that circle, he's going to start evading anything we do to him in a vertical manner. It's going to override everything we had set up on his waypoint actions. Is this kind of making sense how triggers are working?
Yeah.
This is a lot of stuff in here. If it takes a lot of looking through it and seeing what each option does, I don't want to do that. Take up all y'all's time because it's going to take hours to go through every single selection and what each one does. But I mean, they're pretty much.
I think it's better to do it the other way around. Whenever you need something, you'll find it there or not.
Yeah, if you come across something or you have questions, feel free to reach out. And I'll answer them that way. I just don't want to take so much time to go through all of these because you can see there's an ass load. But that is how trigger zones and triggers themselves and the triggered actions all kind of work with each other. It's how you make your missions more dynamic. We could even, if we wanted to, take a step further. Just as an example, I'm going to put down... I'm not even going to worry about naming right now. Actually, I will. Random spawn 1. I'm just going to plop that guy down. Make him big. Make him big. Just going to plop him down right there. I'm going to... If I control C, it will copy a bunch of them, and it will change their naming convention. So just affix numbers to the end, and it'll do the same thing for the pilots. So now I can do, if I click on this late activation, this guy won't be active at the start of the mission until we go over to our triggers here, and let's put down a new trigger zone. Just put a trigger zone right there. Make it what? That's good. Make it 50. 8,000. Color it that way. Call that random spawn. We go back to our triggers. We're going to make a new trigger that happens once. Just call it random spawn. We're going to set a new condition. I'm going to say part of coalition and zone. We're looking for the blue coalition inside the random spawn zone. Now, if we go over to actions, we can go down to group activate. Or sorry, unit activate. So it'll either be unit. I guess it's just group. Never mind. So we'll go to group activate, and we will set it to random spawn 1. You can clone that 3 times. Cool. So if we fly through this zone, if we fly through, okay, go away. If we fly through this zone, these 3 people will spawn in as a triggered action because we entered that zone. We could go a step even further. We could set it as we could add on a new condition under random. And using this percentage feature, we can set whether or not this actually happens. So set it at like 5%. So whenever we fly into the circle, it will run a 5%. It'll do like a little random chance thing at 5% for this to happen. And if the chance goes through, like it rolls a dice correctly and gets on the right number in the computer, it will spawn these 3, or it might not.
So it's random for all 3 or none.
So the way this trigger is set up, it's random for all 3. So we could do this. We could throw on a flag here. Throw on a flag. I'll discuss flags in just a second. We'll leave flag on 1. Let's go ahead and clone. So we'll throw on a new condition. We'll set flag is true. Flag 1 is true. Clone that twice. We'll set flag 2 and flag 3. Let's go ahead. Let's delete that. Delete that. Clone that twice. Cool. Now we just go in and change each of these to their respective things. We can set this one to spawn 1-1. Change this flag to 2. Sorry, let's do this. Flag is false. Change this flag as false. Nope. Change this. Random spawn 1. Change this to flag 1. Flag 2. Flag 3. 2. 3. 2, correct. And then boop. Boop. Change that to flag 3. That changed it to the third one. Cool. What we just did, I know I just kind of went through that. I have 3 different triggers that all initiate on us flying through this zone. All 3 are going to activate at the same time. They're going to run through these conditions. One of these guys is going to spawn before one of the others, or 2 might spawn at the same time, or 3 might spawn at the same time. We don't know. That's what makes it random. And it's going to turn on its respective flag when it spawns. So flags work as like a pseudo memory inside your triggered actions. So the way we have this set up is that if one of these guys spawns, it turns on their flag, which sets it to true value. So after that, none of these will work. None of these none of these others will spawn because one of the flags is true. I feel like I kind of explained that badly. If I did, please tell me.
Yeah, that went way over my head. But I'm on the base floor anyway, so it doesn't take
you're
much.
Good. This is what I was telling you about. Your level of imagination will depend on how well or how deep into these missions you get. This is a general random spawning mission. It's like if you want to fly out, put a bunch of people down, fly out to an area, and you don't want to know where the target is coming at you from, say you want to get better at reacting to threats, you can use this random spawning type trigger set to set up so if you fly into the circle, so one or some of these are going to spawn when you do that because it's a triggered zone. Our triggered zone is set to spawn, part of the coalition. So if you fly into this zone, part of coalition, it's going to run a random chance for this to activate depending on if these 3 flags are false. So every condition you have in here has to meet for the action to happen. So if like we fly through here and this random spawn 1 spawns in, it's going to turn on its flag. That's going to set flag 1. So this flag is false character. It's going to set this flag 1 to true because it's turning the flag on. So these next 2 won't spawn because the flag 1 isn't false anymore. So the depth of triggers is entirely how deep you want to get into it. It's how dynamic you want the mission to feel. You can easily just set down. Oh, my ruler's still on. You can easily just set down a bunch of jets in the sky and then go fly around and shoot all of them individually if you want. But if you feel like getting deeper into it, figuring out these triggers and learning how these impact the mission and let you change the mission dynamically while people are flying it really bumps everything up to the next level.
So how do you know? Oh, sorry to interrupt, but how do you know when you hit the random spawn spot? Is there something visual or yeah?
That's up to you. That's up to you as the mission maker if you want people to know they've hit it or not.
Oh,
so, like,
okay.
By default, these triggered zones don't show up in the mission. They're only visible in Mission Editor. So if I want to know where this spawn zone is, I'm just going to make a draw area around it. I'm just going to make a box around it so I know that spawn area is there.
And then your guys can see it when they're flying. Or
yeah.
But what would
I'm
they
going to
see?
change the binding layer here to blue so the blue coalition can see this.
Oh, okay. And then what would they see and where? Would it be in a TGP or a HUD or something like that?
No, it's on the F10 map.
Oh, you'd have to go to F10 to see it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be visible any other place like ghostly images in the actual mission or something. Okay, cool.
Or a warning that you're going through a no-fly zone or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I go back to this, go back to the trigger zone, I just on one of these, I can throw in under the actions or let's just make a new one. Set a new action for random spawn for condition of part of coalition and zone for the blue zone inside random spawn. We're just going to set up a new action to send a message to everyone for you enter the spawn zone.
Okay, cool. And then you'll see that up in the upper left type of thing.
Yeah, so that's whenever you see server messages inside servers that pop up on the corners, this is where it's coming from.
Roger that. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. That's good to know.
So something important to know when you do this is only going to happen once. So the first person that flies into this zone the message is going to pop up and then it won't do it again.
Will it tell the group what person went through it?
No. So
Okay.
it will
Make it
only throw up what you put in the message text box.
Okay. And nothing else.
Nothing
So
else.
no one will know who it was that triggered it, so they won't really know once that's gone who or how to get back there and do it again.
Right, so that is where we use flags. We use flags as that pseudo memory in our triggered system. So if we add on a flag and we just turn on flag 5, just to give a number. Let's make a new event. So we'll just clone this one. We're going to change our type. Why aren't you letting me change my type? What is happening? There we go. Let's look for... Cool. So we see part of coalition out of zone. We'll actually change that to all of coalition out of zone and set it to blue. And then set it to that random spawn. We're going to delete the message. We're going to change that flag to flag off. So now as it sets, somebody's going to fly into the spawn zone under this trigger. Anybody on the blue side flies into this zone, it's going to pop up that message. It's going to say you entered spawn zone. It's going to turn on flag number 5. And then when they fly out of it and all of the blue is out of that zone, it will then reset that flag to off. Hang on. I need to add on the flag. Flag is true. 5. Cool. So it will then turn that flag off because everybody's outside of the spawn zone. So as it sits, if somebody else flies into that zone, because the flag is false, because it's off is false, on is true, it will then pop up the message again if somebody flies into it. Does that kind of make sense?
Sort of. I'm going to watch this again, praying that the YouTube video hits.
You're good. It's just, think of it, like I said it before, think of flags as memory. If we have a trigger happen and we want that trigger to remember, we want the mission to remember that trigger's happened, we're turning on the flag, we're editing the flag values, and then later we will change those flag values back to what they were originally. It will then let you go through as long as you tell the conditions meet the flag value. It will then do that trigger again.
Okay.
So multiple conditions are with and between them. All of
yes, so as it sits, the list of conditions is an and feature. You can click or down here, and it will separate all of your conditions into an or value. So if we had a condition where 2 different things can set off a trigger, but not necessarily both of them have to happen, you'll use the or function.
Okay.
Yeah, the hardest part of mission making by far is the triggers. Figuring out, this is where like critical thinking comes in, finding ways to get things to work the way you want them to, using the tools inside Mission Editor is what makes or break a mission creator. This is entirely up to you, how deep you get into triggers. I say if you plan on getting into mission creating or you want to make more complex things, you're going to have to get used to this and start understanding its procedures. But otherwise, if you just want to hop in, even hopping in and doing this random spawn thing, like right here, it's cool to do that on your own, to fly that by yourself, but still you have to make that mission. So you have to understand how these triggers work to make that mission happen. That's really the gist of all I have to say as like an overview of mission editing. Does anyone have anything specific they wanted to get into just to get like an idea of how to do something that you've been thinking of? Timber, do you have something?
Yes. So on those other 3 that spawn on the triggers, now do they fly a certain pattern, or does that have to be added in also in addition to what's going to happen right now?
So every time you put down a unit, you have to then put in the unit's behaviors manually. So if I want these guys to fly something, I then have to tell the mission,
Okay.
give them waypoints to fly to.
When they're triggered.
Yes, when they're triggered. So they won't do anything. Like, they won't even be on the map until they're triggered, if you're using this late activation feature.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll still need to make sure you set all the jets up and everything. It's like how you would do your jet or like any other AI jet that spawns normally. Make sure you set up how like high they're flying, how fast they are, if they're taking off from the runway, the ramp, whatnot. Set up their settings in the advanced waypoint actions. So you'll still need to do all of that and set everything up. If you're planning on doing multiple jets like this, control C for copy and paste, control V, it will be your best friend. If I want 3 jets that do the same thing, just kind of like that, they all have the same settings and whatnot, I can just control C, control V, and paste a bunch of them. It'll save you a lot of time in editing instead of having to set down a bunch of individual ones over and over and over again. And it will copy everything on them, even down to their waypoint actions. And I think I did skip over the spawning from air bases. It works for red for AI as well. Putting it near it and then just changing there what type the initial waypoint is will set them to the nearest airbase. An important thing I realized I forgot to skip over, or I skipped over. You need to align your air bases to coalitions. By default, they spawn as neutral. You have to click on their icon. It will bring up their information over here on the right. You'll change their coalition to either blue. You'll see their name change to blue, or red. It'll go back to red. Putting any unit at an airbase will automatically align it to that unit's coalition. If you plan on doing dynamic spawns, you have to go in to the full info list here. This will have a list of all the available aircraft. You can see how much fuel it'll have, how much of each of the individual types of munitions it will have. So you can get into like restricting people that spawn at air bases to specific munitions or only having so many at a time. But specifically for dynamic spawns, you have to enable dynamic spawn on the airbase and then go to the aircraft and select that aircraft as the template for that airbase to use. So if we change this guy back to a dynamic spawn template, and then we go into Sanaki, under full info, we're going to enable dynamic spawn. We're going to go down to the F-16, see him, block 50, and we'll see him in the group template section for that dynamic spawn. If you want to allow people to use a hot start, so spawn into the jet hot, make sure you click on the allow hot start. And then this is new. They didn't have this originally. You had to go through and brute force this through every single individual airbase. But now if you just click copy to, and then whatever you have selected up here, it will copy all of the settings you've had for this airbase to whatever you have selected up here. So if I hit copy to all airfields, we can go to Kataisi. It will only do it to similar coalition airbases. So if I do that again, let's try that again. I go to copy all airfields. I go to Kataisi, full info, allow dynamic spawn. Try that again. Try and not make myself a liar here. Boop. All right, well, apparently I'm just lying to you all, and I don't actually know what I'm talking about, it would seem. Let's see if I can do it manually. Copy. apparently I'm lying to you and I don't know how that works. I thought I did. I've definitely used it in the past, but maybe I forgot how it works. But you can essentially copy all of your settings on here to each of the individual air bases that you have selected for the respective coalition, and saves you a lot of effort and time. Oh yeah, see, it saved it to Sakumi for some reason, so I didn't actually change anything on Sakumi, so the dynamic spawn checkbox and then this Viper flight template was already set up because I did the copy too. That being said, let's hop over. I'm going to open up one of my missions I've made. Go to missions. Let's do Georgian Clapback Part 2. So this is kind of a completed mission area. There's a lot of different elements to it. You'll see down here I have all of my dynamic spawns set up and out of the way. I have all of their respective steer points set up. I have 2 trigger zones. And if we go into my trigger sections, we'll see that I have it set up that if anybody in the blue coalition enters either this trigger zone or this trigger zone, it will set these 2 flags to on, which then activates, so flag 20 and 21, it then activates this trigger for flag is true because I turned flag 21 on, flag becomes true. Then on a random timer, it will then go up and activate this bombing group here and its escort to come attack Sakumi. And flag 20 also gets turned on, so it will then activate the late activation QRF forces at Anapa and Makop. So we'll see I have map objects set up. Map objects set up. For this, they're turning on, each individual one is turning on a flag. I'm using these flags as a memory, so I can go down here. Looks like I didn't use the flags correctly on this mission. But I can, instead of doing all of these specific unit is dead, group is dead, I can use these flag numbers to save your condition space. And lead on to new things. So like these IL-76s are over here at Makop. They're just sitting right here. If they die, there's an explosion zone right here for this triggered zone. And then it starts sending all these messages to people. And I can also look, these guys over here, this little bombing group right here. I click on them, I can see all of their settings. I can see that whenever they get to waypoint 3, they have a bunch of bombing actions that happen. That's what all these little white lines are. And I've moved all these white lines to targets I want to bomb at Sakumi. And then up here, same thing. I've got a bunch of things happening. I've got these little convoys that are running a route I have planned. And then all of these river bridges have trigger zones on them alongside the draw box. So the mission can see them, and people flying the mission can see them. So whenever these bridges get destroyed, the trigger zones activate, and it activates the trigger. Does that kind of help at all, seeing like a fully set up mission?
Oh yeah.
How it's all playing together?
Yep. Just one real quick question: when you have your different flags and things like that in different colors, will those colors show up on the message that you get if you trigger something on the upper
No,
left?
so the messages is always just going to be a white writing on a black background, unless you use the clear view. It will just have the white writing over the sky.
Okay.
But it'll always be white writing. You can probably use scripting or something to change that. But there's no functionality inside Mission Editor for that.
Okay, cool.
The color coding is just to help you understand things better.
Yeah, distinguish. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I can throw up another one. I can throw up part 1. I think part 1 had more. Yep.
I think you don't have any spawn for the seed practice.
Let's go ahead and look at that now. I'm going to go to my campaigns. I'm going to look at our seed practice.
Not the practice, not that one.
You're not talking this mission that we did yesterday?
Yeah, but it's the one that says practice. This one was share fire or something. You had the practice lower below.
Oh, I mean, this is the one we used yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So the way this is set up,
if I start the mission, I just see some essay and I can choose any. I can't fly.
I got you. So if I go into fly mission here, I haven't made any changes, so I'm going to hit no because I don't want it to change anything. We're going to spawn in. So again, at the beginning, whenever we did all that like briefing and everything, situation, here's our situation. I typed all this up, put it in the situation box, and now it pops up at the beginning. And hit start. It'll load up the mission for us. So whenever you play as a solo or just like an offline mission,
I don't have this window on my mission for some reason.
Yeah, that I'm not entirely sure of, because this is supposed to pop up. Any jets you have laid on the ground on a solo mission will pop up in this menu. So all of your templates, you'll just be using that to spawn in. If you don't have it, just choose slot whenever you spawn in.
I think I even have choose slot. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I'm not flying it from the mission editor. I'm flying from the missions, from DCS missions menu, and I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong with.
Yeah, I can take a look at it. Whenever we quit the mission, so earlier somebody had mentioned you can save mission whenever we started. So anything I've done in that mission, say I killed a bunch of shit, but I didn't kill everything, I can save mission. It will save that mission to a separate file in the current state it's in. So you can then come back at a later date and finish the mission.
Oh, man.
Watch track. That's just going back and watching that. DCS saves. I don't know if any of you guys might know this. DCS records all of your flights and it will save it as track files. You can go in and then watch the tracks. It gets a little, the longer you fly, the worse it gets. It kind of gets very decent. We can just hop back into Mission Editor. So here's another example of trigger zones. I have it set up to where if everyone flies in all of these red circles with the thick lines, these are visible on the F10 map to the players. And then inside of the red circle, there's this light blue trigger zone for each of them. And if I go to my triggered actions, I have it set up to where if somebody flies into that zone, it sends out a message with all this information on it. It turns on a flag value, or it turns a flag on, sets its value. And then I have a second. So in this instance, it's saved. This flag value has saved the pseudo memory again. It has saved the aspect of somebody flying into that zone. So if I go down to my next trigger, if I set it up to, so it's set up so if all of the blue flies out of this specific circle, it will then revert that flag value back to 1. So now this trigger will then work again because the flag equals 1. So first flag value, it activates, sets it to 2. That tells the mission, hey, somebody's in the zone. Don't pop this message up again. As soon as everybody gets out of the zone, it turns that flag back to 1. That tells the mission, hey, everyone's out of the zone. We can then go back and we can do this trigger again and reset the flag value and then rinse and repeat. So, again, it's as deep as you want to get into it. For the most part, anyone can just hop in. I can put down jet here, change information, put down another jet here, make it red, change its information, give it a waypoint, spawn in, fly and kill that jet. It's as simple as that if you want to make an easy mission. Or, again, you can spend where's it? There it is. You can spend like 20 hours and make something like this. That's about all I've got. I know I kind of went a little long. I think I rambled a little bit at times. Does anyone have any questions or anything I didn't cover that you wanted to know about?
That was awesome, bro.
That's a good first step, and I'm gonna have to learn from here.
Yeah,
But
lots of
everything's
seeds
good.
learned.
Like I said, triggers and all that, you just learning ways to circumvent certain things or ways to get things to happen. Anytime you get stuck on something, I'm always happy and available. If you just want to ping me in the server, I'm happy to help figure out an outcome for you. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to ping me. I like seeing my name pop up. It makes me feel better about myself. A little sad, but it's true.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, bro.
Yeah, thanks
For
for
your
going
time.
into the
Greatly appreciate
mission that you created at the end there. That really kind of tied it all together. All the cool stuff that you can put in one mission.
Yeah. Kind of like the goal to get to.